Hey guys, I'm going to be trying a bit of a different kind of video today. I've been wanting to make a sort of Smash speculation type video for a while now, and while I'd like to talk a tiny bit about fighter predictions and the like, I really want to touch on a less commonly talked about subject of speculation being non-fighter DLC, mainly stages, but also a little bit more. I'm going to split this into two videos since I feel both will be long enough to stand on their own. The first one's going to involve just basic fighter speculation, and the second one is going to be all of the other DLC ideas I have. Starting off, let's look at some fighters I would personally like to see in the game, since basically everyone is doing that at this point. The reason I'm starting here is because some parts of this will actually carry over into my non-fighter speculation, funnily enough. So let's start with some of the more popular picks. Rayman and Crash. I said the thing. Obviously, I don't think either of these two need any form of introduction, but in any case, these iconic characters both hail from 90s platformer games, with Rayman starting out as a 2D platform on the Atari Jaguar, and Crash coming from a series of 3D platformers on the original PlayStation. Rayman, being owned by Ubisoft, has had a very close history with Nintendo, with a mainline game in the series appearing on literally every single major system since the Game Boy Color. That includes handhelds, home consoles, everything. The most recent game was even originally going to be a Wii U exclusive, but it got delayed in order to be ported to other systems because Wii U, yeah. As such, Rayman has been a very commonly speculated character for Smash over the last few installments, with one of the biggest hoaxes from the Smash 4 days even involving him. Quite frankly, I'm shocked we have yet to see a proper Ubisoft rep in the game, given how close the company is with Nintendo. We've gone literally everything but a fighter plus stage and music from them at this point, and Rayman just feels like the obvious pick from them. That's not to say I also wouldn't be okay with Just Dancer. Crash, on the other hand, has not been very close to Nintendo until pretty recently. Sure, we had some spin-offs on the GBA and the DS, but Crash was mostly relegated to Sony until recently, essentially being an unofficial mascot in a similar way to Cloud. Now that I think about it, these two characters really aren't all that different. Anyway, now that Crash games are starting to become multi-platform, many are starting to see his chances for Smash rise up, including myself, and to see another one of the biggest gaming mascots finally make it in would just be amazing. Outside of these two, I have some very different characters I'd like to quickly touch on. Maxwell from Scribblenauts is honestly a dream character for me at this point. I want him in, but I have never seriously backed him just because I feel he's so unlikely. It's not even anything specific about it. Heck, the first two games in the series were DS exclusive, so it's not like he wouldn't make sense. But something about it just makes me feel like it's not gonna happen. They could easily make a very cool moveset out of it if you made it though. I imagine it would be very similar to Steve's and Heroes, where all of the attacks use different drawings, and one of the specials can maybe be a randomly generated list of doodles to really hammer in the Scribblenauts concepts. I just think he would be a really cool fighter. On the first party side of things, I actually have a few possible Pokemon additions. Decidueye, for instance, would be a neat addition, and even add on to the list of characters considered for the game that ended up missing the base roster for one reason or another. The other ones being an ARMS character, a Xenoblade 2 character, and if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Alucard was also considered for the game. That's besides the point though. Though Incineroar was literally my most wanted going into Ultimate, I do quite like Decidueye and would love to see him get in, even if it's very unlikely at this point. Plus I really just want the stage that would come with it, but we'll get into that later. I do feel like Pokemon Legends might increase Decidueye's chances for getting in the game though, just because Rowlet's a starter in the game. That's not too much evidence, and I very much doubt that that's actually going to have an impact on it, but it is a possibility given how they might be wanting to promote that game somehow, and why not do it with a fighter that very well could have been put into Ultimate to begin with. Aside from that, a fighter that could easily be either a full newcomer or an echo could be a Hoenn Pokemon trainer. The idea I have with this would use the same types and the same evolutionary stages, since you could just have moves that act the same or similar to the ones used by the Kanto trainer. Blaziken, for instance, could use Flare Blitz with an animation reminiscent of the usual art you see of it with like the knee out and all that, you know what I mean. And instead of fly, it could do a sort of single-hitting uppercut type deal, similar to Ryu and Ken Shoryuken. Of course, if it's not an Echo Fighter, we can mix up the ordering, but I feel like the Mudkip Grovyle Blaziken setup would please most people just because, well, all three of the Gen 3 Pokemon starters are very popular, but I definitely heard a lot of people wanting Grovyle in Smash, which is probably one of the only times I've heard people wanting the middle stage evolution for a starter over the final stage. And Mudkip's iconic enough to be the first one in the trainer as the first evolution stage. So just tack Blaziken on at the end and yeah, you've pretty much got a good setup. Honestly though, I really just want to have a Gen 3 rep finally. As for Gen 8 reps, there are actually quite a few good options. Urshifu and Toxtricity are popular picks I think could work well. Rillaboom would probably give us a foul evolution standalone grass starter, assuming we don't get one from another gen at least. Wink wink. And honestly, I could see Inteleon even being adapted to act as a Greninja Echo Fighter. It sounds weird at first, but trust me, it kinda makes sense. Outside of Pokemon, I would absolutely love to see Octolings, especially if they come with an Octo expansion stage and music. I actually think they should be a newcomer to the extent that I literally came up with the entire moveset for them a while back. Essentially, the idea that I had was they can primarily use Splatoon 2 weapons and specials, since the Inkling we already have is mostly Splatoon 1 focused. So the neutral special can maybe be the Splatbrella, where you could either tap it to fire just a single shot, you can hold it to fire and open the umbrella, acting as a short-term barrier from incoming attacks, or you could even hold longer to have the umbrella just like launch out, and it could push opponents away in the process. This could leave the blocking function unusable for a short period of time like it does in Splatoon 2, while the shooting would be available regardless of the state of the umbrella, provided you have enough ink. A side special could be the Ink Brush, where you can either mash it to do sort of a jab combo with it, sort of like a Mark Lucina type deal, and you could also maybe hold it to use sort of like a weaker version of the roller, probably one that wouldn't bury your opponent. And then down special could be a Splatoon 2 sub-weapon. I'm not entirely sure which one, but some of the ideas I have are auto bombs, which would be similar to Bowser Jr.'s down special. Could have curling bombs, which would just go like a single direction across the stage and explode. Obviously, if it bumped into a wall, it would change directions and all that. And then as for the final smash, I have a few options. One of them could be Tenna Missiles, which would probably be similar to PK Starstorm. They could do an Octo expansion, reminiscent version of the Killer Whale if they end up going with the Echo Fighter idea for Octolings. Could be a Booyah Bomb if they can make that work in any way. I'm not entirely sure how, but it would be cool, I guess. But my favorite is Turf War, which would be a cutscene that would sort of mimic the final boss of Octo expansion. So you can have the Octoling bombard the opponent with hyper bombs, and the Octoling would just like travel around the stage, grinding on rails, trying to activate all of them. But yeah, that might be asking for a little too much. I do also want to touch on a few ARMS reps, even though I know for a fact we are not getting any until Smash 6 outside of Min Min. Although that would be dope if we did. Anyway, Springman would be cool to see, just because he is essentially the primary mascot for the game on the box art, pretty much all the promotional stuff, everything. And I'd like to see a more traditional boxer from ARMS, just how that would sort of play in Smash. I'd imagine sort of something like a Little Mac mixed with Min Min type deal. I also think that if frame isn't an issue, Master Mummy could actually potentially be an Echo Fighter for Min Min, just because Master Mummy has primary arms that are very similar in terms of function to Min Min's. So the Ram would be similar to the Phoenix. The Megawatt and Megaton are obviously very similar to each other. The only one I'm not entirely sure about though is the Retorture, because that doesn't exactly function the same as the Dragon, but we have Echo Fighters with different specials already, so I think it's fine. Finally, Max Brass and Dr. Cole could be really cool additions, just because they would kind of add onto the list of villains and antagonists we have in the game. And so yeah, from that perspective, they could be really cool inclusions. Plus, Max Brass again would add in more heavyweights to Smash, which I know a lot of people would like to see. I do also think there's one more sort of major first-party game series that needs representation in Smash, that being Rhythm Heaven. Chorus Kids, of course, are the first that come to mind, given how often they're being speculated and even were seemingly considered for Smash 4. But I know people have also made cases for other characters like Karate Joe. Regardless, the series definitely needs to have some proper representation no matter what character they would pick. Chibi Robo is cool too, I guess, but definitely a lot less relevant. That doesn't exactly mean too much though, so who knows. So the last characters I want to touch on aren't really anything specific, it's more so fan rules. I really just want to see fan rules die, and I'm really hopeful that they eventually all get disproven. The Spirit rule already thankfully died with Min Min, Pyramithra, all that, but the Mii costume and assist rules definitely still seem to stand for some people. It does seem that the assist rule, at the very least, is slowly dying, such as the fact that Springman, for instance, was never counted out as an option for the arms rep, and even seems to have actively been considered to some extent when picking a character from that game based on what was said in the Min Min presentation. The Bomberman Mii costume also seems to go against the assist rule since it literally uses the same model, so clearly having the same character model on stage multiple times isn't an issue. Even the Mii rule seems to not hold much weight since Rex seems to have very seriously been considered for the game, only missing out because of hardware limitations of having both him and Pyro controllable at the same time. Basically, what I'm saying is officially break the assist rule, you cowards. As for Challenger Packs 10 and 11, provided this video comes out before E3, I think we are done with first-party fighters unless we somehow get a third Fighters Pass. I don't think they're necessarily doing any patterns intentionally, but it seems to me that the second Fighters Pass is ultimately going to be laid out as first-party, third-party, third-party, repeat. As for who they end up being, though, I really don't care at this point. Even if it's a character I don't know, the reveals are always just so fun to watch. The movesets are always fun to learn and try out as well, and I'm always open to falling in love with a character I may not have thought about much beforehand. It happened with Joker, it happened with Terry, and I would totally be okay with it happening at least one more time. Anyway, that's all for part 1 of this video. I really wanted to at least get the fire speculation part of this out before E3, and I'm really happy to finally have it finished. Be on the lookout for part 2 in the very near future. If it is up by the time you watch this, I'll be sure to link it in the end cards and description for easy access. That said, I will see you all next time with non-fighter DLC ideas.